My younger sister asked to adopt my baby because she couldn't have kids and refused to adopt. I said no. Then she went online and live streamed her pregnancy journey with my ultrasound. I found out I was pregnant on a drizzly March morning while folding clothes and packing up to move. The test showed 2 bold red lines, like a slap in the face to all the newfound freedom I had planned after divorcing my ex-husband. But instead of panic, I felt something inside me soften, then warm, in a strange, unexpected way. At first, I didn't plan to keep the baby, but when I placed my hand on my belly, something shifted. I didn't feel like myself anymore. It was no longer a logical decision. It was a connection that defied reason. As if this child had arrived not to tie me down, but to save me. Mark, my ex-husband, still texted me now and then, checking in, even though he'd already relocated to another city for work. I hadn't told him about the pregnancy, partly because I wasn't sure how I felt, and partly because I wasn't sure I even wanted him involved. But deep down, I knew I wasn't completely alone. When I called my mom, she was silent for a few seconds, then sighed. "Are you planning to keep it?" That question cut through our mother-daughter bond like a knife. She, of all people, should understand what it feels like to become a mother. But I didn't blame her because I knew she was just worried I'd suffer. There was only one person I felt comfortable confiding in, my younger sister, Lana. She was always quick-witted, socially aware, modern, and the least judgmental person in the family. At least, that's what I used to believe. I invited Lana out for afternoon tea at a little cafe she often checked in at on social media, thinking she'd be excited to share this moment with me. When I told her I was pregnant, her eyes widened, lips tightening, as if she wasn't sure whether to congratulate me or scold me. Then she hugged me, whispering simply, "You're so brave." I thought that was the end of it. A hug, a kind word, maybe a few casual questions like always. But that night, Lana posted a story. Maybe miracles come from the people you least expect. The photo showed a blurry hand on someone's belly. Mine. I knew it instantly. I messaged her. "What are you hinting at?" She replied with a heart emoji and 3 dots. Something felt off, like she was using my story, but telling it her own way. Lana is a popular live streamer, known for her feel-good, healing content that sounds spiritual but also sells affiliate products remarkably well. Lately, she'd been talking a lot about overcoming loss, self-acceptance, and a deep yearning for motherhood despite infertility. I used to think it was all just content. But now, I was starting to wonder how much of it was real. A week later, she invited me out again, this time to a fancy organic restaurant with a lake view. When dessert arrived, she gently placed her hand on mine and said, "I have a proposition, only you can help me with." Her smile was soft, but her eyes pierced straight through me. I put down my spoon, watching her carefully, trying to stay calm even as my gut screamed that something was off. Lana spoke gently. "I can't have kids, but you can." Her voice didn't waver. It was clear, as if she'd rehearsed this many times before. Before I could respond, she continued, "You're carrying something precious. Something I may never have." She squeezed my hand, eyes glistening like she was pleading, but underneath it, there was something I couldn't name. "I want you to have the baby, and then give it to me," Lana whispered, as if afraid someone might hear, but the words exploded in my head like a bomb. I thought I'd misheard. But no, she repeated it. "I'll raise it like my own." My mouth went dry. My whole body turned cold. I asked, "You mean, like adoption?" She shook her head. "No, adoption is different. This is family." She smiled gently. "No one else needs to know. Just you and me." I leaned back in my chair, feeling like I'd been pulled into a play I hadn't agreed to be in. Lana kept talking. "I already told my fans I'm on a healing journey, and having a child would be the perfect, hopeful ending." That sentence made my spine go cold. "I don't want to adopt," she said. "The fans would dig into it. They want to see a woman overcome her fate, not pick up someone else's hope." Her words stripped away any illusion. I was staring at her true intentions. I looked her straight in the eyes. "Are you saying you want to use this baby to complete your personal brand?" Lana tilted her head. "Call it a brand or not, I'll love the child. Because it's yours. It's blood." Her logic left me speechless. "I'll give it the best life. I have the means, the support, the perfect home," she said, then showed me her phone. Photos of a fully decorated nursery, complete with a neon sign that read "Baby Hope." I was frozen. She had everything ready: crib, clothes, bottles, even a live stream corner for her inspiring young mom content. Lana was prepared for the role of a mother. She just needed one thing: the baby inside me. I stood up, struggling to breathe, like the room was closing in. Lana called after me, "Don't decide just yet. Just think about the good I could give the baby." But what chilled me wasn't the request. It was the calmness in her eyes. I didn't sleep at all that night. Her words echoed over and over. "You give birth, I raise it." It felt like I had walked into a casting call and been given the part, without ever auditioning. I placed my hand on my belly. For the first time, I felt the need to protect something, not just for me, but for its own sake. The next morning, I got a message from Lana. "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything, from the paperwork to the media." Attached was a photo of a guardianship agreement sent to my email. A chill ran down my spine as I realized she wasn't waiting for my answer. She had already assumed I'd say yes. I called my mom, hoping she could help clear the fog in my head. But all she said was, "Lana's been through a lot. If she wants to be a mother, maybe you should think about it. For her sake." I hung up without saying another word, because I knew, this time, the decision had to be mine alone. I tried explaining everything to Mark, even though we hadn't been connected in a long time. He was silent for a while, then said quietly, "If you give that baby to someone like her, I'll never forgive you, and neither will you." His words sliced clean through all the hesitation still lingering inside me. I texted Lana, "I need time to think." Just minutes later, she replied, "Time is the only thing you're running out of." Beneath the message was a screenshot of an upcoming live stream titled, "Becoming a Mother Without Giving Birth, A Miraculous Journey." I had never felt more cast as a villain than in that moment. If I said no, I would be the one who stole my sister's dream of motherhood. If I said yes, I would be betraying the child inside me. I walked alone along the lake, letting the wind carry away the storm inside me. I didn't blame Lana for being unable to have children. I just never imagined she'd choose this way to become a mother. Sometimes, people don't lose their humanity because of pain, but because of the fear of being left behind. That night, I opened Lana's live stream, just to confirm the fear gnawing at me. And yes, there she was, speaking with a trembling voice, hand resting over a fake belly, talking about a gift from the one I love most. I stared at the screen, then looked down at my stomach, and knew I had to speak up before she finished writing my story for me. I didn't say anything after that live stream ended. But inside me was a tidal wave I couldn't quiet. Lana had officially announced that she was preparing for motherhood, without ever once mentioning me. As if my role, the one carrying the child, was just a shadow behind the camera. A few days later, I received a package from a major brand. Inside was a box of baby and maternity products, with a card that read, "Congratulations on your sacred journey, Lana." They had accidentally shipped it to my address, but the recipient's name was my sister's. I held the box in my hands, shaking, unsure if it was from anger or the realization that I had already been replaced. I finally texted Lana one sentence, "You've gone too far." She replied with a sad face emoji and the message, "I'm sorry if I hurt you, but this is my only chance in life." Not remorse, just a calculated justification. Soon after, I started getting messages from Lana's followers. What kind of sister gets jealous of her own sibling? Why won't you support a woman rising above adversity? I had never said anything publicly, but somehow, Lana had rewritten my story, with herself as the victim. My mom called again, her voice full of concern. "Don't make your sister upset, she's fragile." I gave a dry laugh. Fragile? She staged an entire livestream narrative, rewrote someone else's life to turn it into emotional content. But to my mom, Lana was still the baby who needed to be protected. And I was the one expected to sacrifice to preserve that illusion. I temporarily withdrew from social media, but the chaos kept swirling around me like a storm. Lana appeared on a podcast, telling the story of a sister who never believed in her ability to become a mother. I knew she was talking about me, but somehow the narrative turned me into the selfish one. During one of my prenatal checkups, the doctor gently asked if I was experiencing any emotional stress. I stared at the ceiling in silence, unsure how to even begin explaining that my sister was rehearsing motherhood using the very child I was carrying. Tears slipped down my face before I could stop them. Mark came by over the weekend, bringing a bag of warm food and prenatal milk. He looked at me for a long time, then said, "I never thought your own family would put you through something this insane." I laughed, so hard my throat ached, because I had no idea how to explain it all in a way that sounded remotely normal. Mark offered to take me out of the city, to stay at his aunt's house in the countryside. "If you say yes, I'll drive you there right now," he said, holding my hand tight. But I knew, if I left now, Lana would be free to finish the story her way. So I began documenting everything, every detail, every message, every story posted and then deleted. Not to expose her, but to keep records. Because if I ever had to fight for my right to be a mother, I needed proof. I never imagined I'd have to do something like this. But now, I had no other choice. I didn't reply to Lana's messages for days and she stopped texting. Then one morning, I saw a new video on her page, titled, "Choosing Love, Even When Family Doesn't Accept You." I didn't even need to watch it to know. This time, she had cast herself as the pure, tragic lead again. The comments were split, but most supported her. One read, "I hope your sister comes around soon, you deserve to be a mom." And that's when I realized I had become the villain. Without ever saying a word. An anonymous account messaged me, "You should tell the truth now. If not, your sister will eventually take the baby from you too." I scrolled past it, not planning to respond. But that one sentence echoed in my mind for the rest of the afternoon. Could she really go that far? That night, I went back through old emails and found something that made my skin crawl. Lana had sent a draft of a temporary guardianship agreement, giving her full authority to care for and make medical decisions for the newborn. She wrote clearly, "It's just temporary, for the early phase, to make media management easier." As if the baby were a prop in some PR campaign. I printed out the document, placed it on the table, and stared at it for over an hour without blinking. A part of me still hoped this was all a misunderstanding, a moment where her desperation had made her overstep. But every word, every detail made it clear. Lana had been planning this for a long time, and she was dead serious. The next morning, I brought the paper to a lawyer's office. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to sue anyone or claim anything. I just needed advice about my rights as a mother. The lawyer looked at me for a long moment and said quietly, "Don't sign anything. You're dealing with someone who knows the law very well and is twisting it for personal gain." When I got home, there was a message from my mom. "Do you want me to talk to Lana for you?" I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she'd finally realized something was wrong. But then another message followed. "I just don't want her to get more hurt. I love her so much." And my heart sank all over again, from disappointment this time. Mark was sitting beside me as I read that message. He gently said, "Don't expect them to take your side. You need to stand on your own side first." I didn't say a word, just nodded. For the first time in weeks, I felt understood. I picked up my phone, went to Lana's profile, and left a comment for the first time. "Don't speak on my behalf. I'm still here. I'm still carrying this child, and it's not a prop for anyone's narrative." 10 minutes later, the comment was deleted, and I was blocked from all of my sister's accounts. I sat there in silence, staring at the empty screen, my heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. My sister, the one I used to defend from bullies, the one I drove to school every morning, no longer wanted me to exist in her world. Not because I was wrong, but because I had disrupted the storyline she was trying to sell with the most artificial voice she could muster. I thought things would quiet down after being blocked, but that was only the beginning. Lana started posting new vlogs, talking about being betrayed by the people closest to her, with blurry images of a hand resting on a pregnant belly. The internet buzzed again, and once more, I was cast as the villain. An old friend sent me screenshots of a conversation between Lana and a well-known mom and baby brand. In it, she introduced herself by saying, "My baby is due in October." Not a single line mentioned me, no clarification that she wasn't the one pregnant. It felt like pieces of my truth were being stolen from my own life. That same day, I received an invitation to a product launch event. Lana was the guest of honor, presented as a mother-to-be who overcame adversity. They either sent it to me by mistake or on purpose. I stood there holding the glittering card, choking as if the air itself had turned solid. At my next prenatal checkup, the doctor said everything looked great. The baby was developing well. But I couldn't tell him that outside these clinic walls, someone else was preparing an entire world to welcome this child, as if they were the one carrying it. I left the appointment feeling like I just fought an invisible war. When I got home, there was a package at my door. No name, no note. Inside was a tiny white newborn dress, embroidered with the letter L. I knew it was from Lana, even though she didn't sign it. And I also knew it wasn't sent out of care, but as a claim. I wrote a letter that night, not to send to anyone, but for myself. To remind me why I couldn't collapse. In it, I wrote, "You are my child. No matter what the world calls me, no matter what others try to take you for, I will keep you with me." I folded the letter and placed it in the music box beside my bed. Mark came by that evening. He found me crying, but said nothing. He just held me tightly. "I know you're strong," he said, "but being strong doesn't mean being alone." I nodded, and for the first time I believed I could keep going without lowering my head. That night, I reopened every voice memo, message, and photo. I created a folder called Truth. I wasn't planning to use it yet, but I needed to be ready. Because with Lana, anything could become content. And this time, I wouldn't let her rewrite my story. I looked at myself in the mirror, at the belly that was growing larger by the day, and at eyes that no longer looked afraid. I didn't know exactly how I'd win this fight. But I knew one thing for sure. No one would take my baby away from me. Not with tears. Not with soft piano music behind a live stream. And this time, I would not stay silent. 3 days later, I got a call from a stranger claiming to be Lana's legal representative. He spoke calmly, but every word hit like a punch to the chest. "We'd just like to clarify guardianship and media rights related to the upcoming birth." I answered with one sentence. "This is my child, and I have never agreed to share that with anyone." That very night, Lana uploaded a new video, nearly 10 minutes long, sad piano music in the background, her voice trembling. She spoke about the pressure of being denied the chance to be a mother, by her own flesh and blood. She ended with, "I just want to love my child. Why is that so hard?" The comments were flooded with sympathy, outrage, and fury, directed at me. "No one should be robbed of motherhood just because someone else is selfish," wrote one user, liked by thousands. I didn't reply, because replying now would only make me look like I was defending myself from a crime I never committed. Later, I received an email from a brand that had previously partnered with Lana. They apologized for accidentally sending a gift to the wrong address and asked me not to share anything that might disrupt their upcoming campaign. I had never spoken publicly, but they were already protecting themselves. That's when I realized everything around me was now being controlled by a story that I didn't write. One early morning, while taking a walk around the apartment complex to get some air, I noticed a group of strangers standing near the gate, secretly filming. One of them wore a shirt with the logo of the live stream platform Lana often used. I went straight into the elevator, my heart racing. Had my sister already started turning everything into a documentary? I called my lawyer and told him everything. He asked me just one question. Are you ready to fight this to the end? I knew there was no turning back, no matter how much it hurt. I said, I don't need anyone's pity. I just need my child to live their truth, not to live a life that fits someone else's concept. Mark suggested hiring an independent legal team to protect my and my child's privacy and personal information. You shouldn't be the only one fighting this, he said, handing me a folder of documents he had prepared. I was touched by his thoughtfulness, but also heartbroken to be fighting like I was defending some threatened asset. The next day, I received an anonymous email that said, You can't stop the truth. The public deserves to know who the real mother is. Attached was a heavily edited behind-the-scenes clip showing Lana placing her hand on a fake baby bump and whispering, She still doesn't know I'll be the one raising it. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, and he simply replied, That's more than enough to expose her. But I wasn't ready yet. I still hoped Lana would stop, or at least come to her senses before it all went too far. That night, I called my mom. I asked her one question. If I lose custody of my child because of Lana, whose side will you be on? She was silent for a long time, then said, I don't know. I just want things to be peaceful. And I realized, for her, peace mattered more than truth. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling, like something inside me had cracked. I picked up my phone and saw a message from an anonymous account. Lana just dropped the trailer for her video, The Magical Journey of Motherhood. In the trailer, a pregnant woman was filmed from behind. And I recognized that silhouette. It was me. I stood frozen for a few seconds before bursting into tears, not out of anger, but from the feeling of being violated to the core. Moments I believed were private, my gaze, my walk, the way I stood, had been twisted into material for a story that wasn't mine. I never gave permission, but my sister never needed any from me anyway. I contacted the platform where Lana had uploaded the video and filed a takedown request for unauthorized use of my image. They said they were reviewing it, but emphasized, if the person in the video is a family member and their face isn't clearly shown, it's difficult to take action. That's when I realized I wasn't just emotionally exploited. I was trapped in the gray zone between legal and ethical boundaries. That night, I called Mark and asked, if I speak up tomorrow and tell everything, will anyone believe me? He didn't answer right away. He just said, even if no one believes you, you still have to speak, because if you don't protect the truth, no one else will do it for your child. I stayed up all night writing my statement, not to expose or seek revenge, but to tell the story from the beginning. From when I found out I was pregnant, to when Lana asked me to hand over the baby, to how she began crafting her own narrative. I didn't use harsh words, I simply told what happened. Because the truth, when painful enough, doesn't need dramatic language. I sent the statement to my lawyer for review. He replied with just one line. If you're going to go public, do it fast. Lana is about to release her official video. If you wait too long, you'll become a side character in your own life. That line snapped me out of a long, distorted nightmare. I sent my writing to an old friend, an editor at a major community blog. She called me just 15 minutes after reading it, her voice shaky. This story doesn't just move readers. It forces them to rethink what love in a family really means. That's when I knew there was no turning back. The article was published Monday morning, titled, My Sister Wants to Claim My Baby, because it fits her image better. Within 3 hours, the post had gone viral. Comments exploded. And I realized I wasn't the only one Lana had manipulated. An ex-assistant of Lana's commented, I once heard her say, every baby is a brand deal opportunity if marketed right. A former classmate shared. She once faked having a foreign boyfriend just to promote a heartbreak, healing video. Slowly, the curtain over Lana's persona began to rip, starting from places no one expected. I don't know what's coming next, lawsuits, threats, smear campaigns. But I know that no matter what lies ahead, I'm no longer alone. Because this time, I'm the one telling the story, and I'll tell it to the very end. The next morning, I woke up to hundreds of messages from strangers, mostly words of support, some apologies, and a few blunt questions like, is it true that Lana forced you to sign away your baby? I sat there in silence, reading every word, feeling like I was witnessing a trial where justice, for the first time, was leaning in my favor. But deep down, I still didn't feel relief, because I knew Lana wouldn't stay quiet. Sure enough, just a few hours later, Lana posted a short video on Instagram. She was crying, no makeup, speaking in a trembling voice. It was all just a misunderstanding between two sisters. She apologized for hurting me, but emphasized, I only wanted to raise the baby with all my heart. I felt both angry and amused. Because an apology that comes with justifications for wrongdoing isn't an apology at all. I wasn't planning to respond, but Mark told me, staying silent now means giving her the stage back. I knew he was right. But I was also afraid of turning into someone else, bitter, combative, vengeful. I didn't want my child growing up inside a story of hatred. That night, I posted something simple. No names, just a photo of the baby's ultrasound and a single sentence. Mom is still here, and I'll protect you with everything I have. No drama, no accusations, no backstory. But it spread faster than I expected. Some brands that used to work with Lana quietly removed her images from their campaigns, for ethical reasons. A few influencers who once praised her began deleting old posts. And I knew the dominoes had started to fall. Not because I said too much, but because, finally, people were seeing it for themselves. Lana disappeared from social media for 3 days. No stories, no posts, no attempts to explain. But I knew she wasn't retreating. She was planning a counterattack from another angle. And sure enough, on the morning of the 4th day, I received a civil mediation notice from her lawyer. In the letter, they wrote that Lana only wants to maintain a close bond with the child, if not as the legal mother, then at least as a co-parent. They even asked me to reconsider the feelings of someone who has experienced reproductive trauma. I handed the letter to my lawyer without reading any further. Because this time, I wouldn't let compassion make me weak. Mark sat beside me as I signed the refusal to mediate. His gaze was calm but firm. If you take 1 step back, they'll take 3 forward, he said. I nodded, understanding that this was no longer just a fight between 2 sisters. It was a battle between the truth and a perfectly crafted mask. Some relatives messaged me, telling me to give in for the sake of family peace. I read the messages but didn't respond. Everyone wants peace, but no one has ever lived with the silent fear of having their child taken from them. And this time, I wouldn't rest until my child was absolutely safe. That night, I placed my hand on my belly, feeling every little kick like words of encouragement. My baby had no idea they were being fought over like an object, and that's exactly why I couldn't stop. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and knew for sure. Tomorrow, I would tell the final chapter of this story, once and for all. The next morning, I sent my lawyer the recording of the first conversation between Lana and me at the tea shop, the one where she first asked me to give her the baby. I had never released that recording before, still hoping she'd stop before things went too far. But now I knew staying silent was no longer an option. The recording was included in the latest news article. Popular influencer once asked sister to be a surrogate, promised to love the baby as her own for image purposes. The article didn't mention names, but anyone following the story knew who it was. The public reacted immediately, but this time, most people were on my side. A mother who had once been pressured by her sister to terminate a pregnancy messaged me, "Thank you for having the courage to speak out." A young lawyer wrote, "This story needs to be public so society can rethink how we define motherhood." And I began to realize, my story wasn't just mine anymore. It resonated with so many others. Lana called me that night, after more than a week of silence. Her voice cracked, no sweetness, no pretense of kindness anymore. "You won. Happy now?" she asked. I stayed quiet for a moment before replying, "I never wanted to win. I just wanted to be a mother." There was only a sigh on the other end, then the call ended. I sat there, hand still on my belly, feeling like I had lost something I could never get back. Not my child, but the sister I once thought I understood. The next day, Lana posted one final video, no background music, no tears, no makeup. "I have nothing left to say. If you ever believed in me, thank you. If not, that's okay too." The video didn't go viral like the others, because this time, the audience no longer wanted to listen. The remaining brands ended their partnerships, and Lana lost nearly half her followers in just a week. Those who once cheered for her turned away, not out of hatred, but exhaustion. They realized real stories don't need a script. I spent the days after resting, walking, reading, and preparing to welcome my baby. I no longer checked social media often, nor did I care what people were saying. Because real life, sometimes so still it's almost silent, is exactly what I had fought so hard to reclaim. One weekend morning, Mark drove me to the hospital, the moment my baby chose to enter the world. Through the waves of pain, I kept thinking one thing. I'm here, Elijah. No one can change that. And a few hours later, I heard my baby's first cry, an unrepeatable sound that no script could ever capture. I held my child close, heart light as air after the storm. Little Elijah, with wide open eyes, was the only answer I needed to every battle I had ever fought. And in that moment, I knew, no one else could ever rewrite this story but me. I decided not to post any photos of Elijah online, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted my child to grow up in peace, not under a spotlight. Elijah wasn't born to be a healing symbol or part of a personal brand. He was just a child. And that, in itself, was enough. My mother visited a few days after I gave birth. She held her grandson and stayed silent for a long time, saying nothing about Lana, asking no questions about the past. But before she left, she gently placed her hand over mine and said, "Thank you for keeping your heart. I couldn't do that." Lana never showed up again. No calls, no texts, no packages. Still, I thought of her sometimes, not with anger, but with sorrow. She once had the chance to be a good person, but chose to become a character in her own false story. I write in a journal for Elijah every night, telling him the story of how he came into my life. Not so he'll see me as a hero, but so he'll understand that real love always takes courage. And that sometimes, the greatest form of protection isn't fighting back, but holding on to what's right, even when the world says you're wrong. One morning I received an anonymous package. Inside was a heart-shaped locket and a small note. No matter what happened, you'll always be the sister I love the most. I knew it was from Lana. And I cried, not out of forgiveness, but because in the end she finally told the truth, by saying nothing at all. I placed the locket in the drawer without telling anyone. Some things aren't meant to be exposed. Not to prove anything, but to remind us that we made it through, that we lived honestly, and that we didn't become the thing we once feared. And that's enough. 3 months later, I took Elijah to the park for the first time. The sun was gentle, the breeze ran through my hair, and children's laughter echoed everywhere. In that moment, I no longer felt like a broken mother. I felt whole. A woman I didn't know came over, looked at Elijah, and asked, "He's adorable, where's your husband?" I smiled softly. "We're no longer together, but I'm doing just fine." She nodded. "That's okay. Strong women these days don't need someone by their side to be great mothers." That night, I watched Elijah sleep, my heart full of gratitude. Not because everything had ended peacefully, but because I didn't lose myself in the chaos. And because of him, I found the most precious thing of all. True peace, at last. I don't know what Elijah will ask me someday. Maybe he'll want to know why Aunt Lana never came to visit. Why people once talked so much about him. And I'll tell him. Honestly, without judgment. That some love comes in the wrong form. But what mattered most was that I chose to keep him, and I never once regretted it. I thought the story was over. That night, right after nursing Elijah, I got a message from an unknown number. Just 6 words. "Are you asleep? I miss him." Before I could react, another message popped up. A photo of Elijah sleeping in his crib. But it wasn't taken by me. I looked around. The room was dark, the windows still locked. But the streetlight leaking through the curtains revealed a tiny footprint on the windowsill. And I knew her game was never over. If you also feel like this story can't end here, leave a comment. I need to know what happens next. Because some people never know when to stop, even when they've already lost everything.